Feeling nostalgic about the foot? This is your look at the new Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate's Foot Soldier. Foot soldiers are all alike, speechless robotic minions to Shredder the evil foot leader. Their mummified movements, turtle shell armor made from the unfortunate relatives of the turtles, and radioactive eyes make these skeletal scumballs truly horrible additions to the Foot Clan. Before this review gets kicked off, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the Foot Soldier is from the Super 7 TMNT Ultimate line. He's going to be a little bit taller than the other two turtle figures that we had to look at, one being Raphael and one being Splinter. But just by how much? Taking the tape measure to the very top, right there, you're looking at the figure standing 7.6 inches in height. Switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the Ultimate's Foot Soldier standing almost 19.3 centimeters to be exact. And for some size comparisons, let's bring in the other turtle figures that we've had a look at. Just recently we had a look at Splinter, and before that we had a look at Raphael. To give you a real good scale idea of how these stack up to one another, obviously the Foot Soldier, like his original retro counterpart, a lot taller than both the turtle figures that we've had a look at, the Raphael on his left and Splinter to his right. Another fun comparison I thought we could make is just moving over the retro-inspired Foot Soldier and bring in the NECA Foot Soldier. Now obviously the NECA one is geared more towards looking like his cartoon counterpart, whereas the one to the right, the one we're going to be having a look at, this Foot Soldier is clearly based around the initial design of the Playmates Foot Soldier that was released in the 80s. But kind of give you an idea of how those Foot Soldiers look different from one another. Obviously, there's a lot of different colors being incorporated into the retro-inspired Ultimates Foot Soldier that really doesn't make any bit of an appearance on the NECA's release of Foot Soldier here on the left. Unfortunately, due to the fact that the Foot Soldier wasn't part of that initial wave of re-released classic collection figures from Playmates, he may have come out later, but it was only sadly the first wave that I ended up picking up for myself. And because I did end up ultimately selling off my initial Foot Soldier, I think I had 4 of them when it was all said and done, I can't actually do a comparison with the original Playmates version to this one that we're going to be having a look at right here. Many of the accessories, though, that we are going to be tackling in a second will be ones that came with the original Playmates release. And I guess the place that we should start when it comes to his accessories seems to be the same place we've started all of these reviews of the Super 7 Ultimates line, and that is this tray of weapons. Now, the original Playmates version of the Foot Soldier would have come included with this also as well. I don't feel too inclined to want to start removing these. If you really wanted to, sure, fine, I guess you could go ahead and take these all off. They're just attached to the tray by very thin strands of plastic. But I mean, ultimately, you're going to be getting the exact same accessories separate and much better painted. That again, I don't feel the need to want to start taking this off. This ruins the nostalgia if I'm going to start pulling these all off the tray. Instead, I'm going to keep this sealed. I'm probably either going to put it back in the packaging or maybe just even display it behind each one of the turtle figures just because it's fun. And the fact that this is so much nostalgia overload happening right here. So I'm going to move this to the side and we're going to look at the accessories. We'll sort of start with the smallest and work our way up. The smallest that have made reappearances from both the Splinter and the Raphael that we've already had a look at is this very nice shiny pair of silver shurikens. They are, in fact, the exact same shurikens that we got with the other two figures, so nothing does change there. I'm going to put these to the side, because if anything was a candidate at being lost during the course of this review, it would be those tiny little shurikens. So I'm going to put those to the side for the time being. The Foot Soldier also comes included with a blaster, and referencing back to the tray of weapons, the tray O weapons, you can see, in fact, yes, it is the exact same blaster. Now, again, if you wanted to, you could take this off and have 2 of these, but why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do this? This has so much more paint added to it. It gets afforded the additional black that's brushed across the surface of the plastic. You can see all the details that stand out as a result of it. So again, I'm not going to probably take that off the tray, nor am I going to take off the tray the next accessory, and that is a larger rifle. Again, a laser blaster of sorts. Both of these probably originated from Dimension X. And it's a very nice, longer rifle, which came included with the initial foot soldier, if memory serves me correctly. Or it may have came included with the original Playmates Rocksteady. At any rate, it gets washed the same way in black, with a little bit of additional silver added there on that side and on this side. Actually, this side gets a little bit more than this side right here. Got a little bit of left off paint, unfortunately. But nice overall looking blaster rifle. I'm going to put that to the side. He also comes included with a knife. The knife gets a lot of additional coloring. It's probably still molded in black plastic, or it may have also even just been molded all in gray plastic if they're following the suit of all the other accessories. If that's the case, then the hilt has been painted in black, and the blade has been painted in silver, the same silver color as the shurikens. And that's a nice touch as well. These, I believe, did come also included with the initial released foot soldier from Playmates. This sort of whip, bolo, I guess a mace of some sort. This is all still kept to a very dark gray plastic. And actually, as a comparison, you can see how much it differs from the one that's still attached to the tray. This one has a nice dark handle to it, where the one that's still to the tray is all still kept to that lighter gray plastic. He does also come included with this. And because I think the initial foot soldier was very limited on accessories, short of the things that he came with on the tray, I think a lot of times I ended up just displaying the foot soldier with this, which is sort of like this clamping. I'm not really sure what kind of accessory this is, whether this would actually fire off something, or if it actually just served as more of a clamping weapon that he would use to be grabbing onto the turtles. Judging by the fact that there's little pistons on the sides, makes me think it's just more so a clamping tool. Now, one side you can see there's some silver that's been given to it. The other side is still kept to black. Kind of actually I like it more so, I think, with the black, whether that is the unfinished side or not. I think the black works a little bit better, especially when you've got it against the backdrop of the silver. And those are his accessories, short of, again, just a few interchangeable hands, which we'll have a look at right now. Yes, tons and tons of hands come included with the retro-inspired foot soldier, far much greater than the original release, which would have only came with the two hands that were in his sockets right now. Let's go through the various different hands that he comes included with, and we'll kind of group these together, pair them up, if you will. He comes with a pair of flat hands, karate chopping hands, if sure, why not? He comes with those. He comes with a couple of closed fists. Not the best suitable, I suppose, when it comes to him holding accessories, but again, a bunch of closed fists. It comes with a couple of gestured hands, pointing hands, I suppose. It could also be like sparring hands. You could do that. And then, of course, it comes with a couple of gripping hands as well. I'm not sure what's happened to this particular hand, why the finger is brought over the way that it is. I don't know if it's a reference to something, a reference to a part of the episode of the Ninja Turtle cartoon, or if it's a reference back to, I don't know, it can't be referencing necessarily back to the Playmates line, not that I'm aware of at least, but you can definitely see the pointer finger is overlapping the middle finger. It must be some sort of an inside joke there. I don't know, maybe Scout's honor for the foot soldier. Needless to say, those are the accessories that come included with the figure. Let's get a closer look now at the foot soldier. This particular one has a soft spot in my heart. While I was collecting all the original vintage Playmates turtles, the foot soldier marks the only, first time at least as a kid, that I was buying a figure that I already had one in my collection. In fact, I vividly remember going to the store and picking one up off the shelf, and I guess my parents' memory was good enough to know that I already had it, because they asked me, didn't you already have this figure in your room? And I said, well, actually, yeah, I did want to get a second one of these. Obviously, they didn't know to the extent of what army building was. And even as a kid, the idea of spending the money to get another one of the same toy seemed a bit strange. And yet, for the foot soldier, I'm more than willing to hand over the money in order to get another one of these. And I ended up getting, when it was all said and done, I think 4 foot soldiers. I bought 2 in the beginning and then bought 2 another later. And I ultimately just then sold all of them, which was so disappointing. We make such horrible mistakes as children, parting ways with things that we would then regret later on as adults. Anyways, though, looking at the foot soldier is very, very much reminiscent of the original Playmates line, down to the fact that the same color scheme, the tunic being done in the dark gray, the pads covering over the arms, going in more that lighter blue color, which mirrors the same blue that's also in its pants. And then again, that's more hooded top torso piece, the area, of course, where his mask is. Now, in the original toy line, the foot soldier was sort of hunched over. He sort of had like a squatting pose for him. Made him look a little awkward, obviously with a much needed articulation that the Super7 have incorporated into this. You can actually have your foot soldier standing upright, or you can put him in a little more interesting pose than what you could with the limited articulation that was found on those original Playmates toys. I love the bright coloring that they put in his eyes. They look like little lemons for his eyes. Of course, you've got the raised foot soldier emblem there in the middle, done all in red. That's a nice touch. Like the natural sculpting that they've put at the bottom of his hood. And again, like it looks like the old vintage line, just upgraded very much so, both in the sculpt, the paint, and again, when we look at the articulation, he's got a lot more going for it. I do really like the texture work and that they've added right here to the padding. You can see the little scratches, and even not even just the scratches, how there's a little bit of texturing that they've added to the surface of that. And like with his accessories, they've added like that little coating of black just to fill in those creases and crevices so that all these little sculpted areas and lumps and bumps to it all stand out. It kind of actually looks like it's been attached by elastics. In actual fact, it's just molded plastic, and they probably just mounted and glued this to the side of his forearm. There's the bottom of the skirt or tunic there. This is all soft plastic, by the way, same as the top. The bottom, I guess, of his mask is all soft plastic also. Looking a little bit further down, he gets a little bit of additional coloring, a discoloration of darker, not quite a darker blue, but probably more similar to that black, added again to the surface of the plastic. It really just allows some of that sculpt to really stand out. And again, down all the way down to the bottom of his feet. If you are curious, he doesn't actually have peg holes on the undersides of his feet. But the curious thing about it, though, is if you look at it at certain lighting, it looks like their intended plan was to give him peg holes. And maybe he just decided at the last minute they weren't going to give it to him. I'm not really sure why, because it looks like they had already started to put in the holes for his feet, and yet the peg holes are completely absent on this figure. Let's have a look at the poseability now on the foot soldier. He really does have a lot, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out. He has a very large ball joint. You can probably see it at the base of the neck right there. And this allows for a good range of motion, up, down, rock, back and forth. And technically you could rotate this all the way around. That was something I always did with my original Playmates foot soldier. The way that his head was socketed in place, pretty much this was all you could really do with the original Playmates foot soldier. And I kind of like that you can mimic that again with this release. As for the arms hinge out. Now, I find the arms on this one really tight, something that I mentioned, I think, when it came to Splinter. Again, I'm fine for the idea that the joints are tight. I could probably heat them up a little bit and loosen them up. But this one does give me a little bit of resistance, and it's still, even after the time I've been playing around with this figure, it still is very reluctant to want to bend out. So I'm going to leave that be, and I'll probably just end up heating that a bit to soften up the joint. On the other side, however, though, the arm bends completely fine, perfectly out, almost a full 90-degree angle bend. You can rotate the arms all the way around. And luckily, because this is all softer plastic, it means that when you are moving the arm, it does stay out of the way. He does have a rotation at the bicep. He has a single hinge on the elbow, and that single hinge also serves to give him a secondary rotation at the forearm. Hands also rotate all the way around, whatever hands you decide to display him with. He has an upper torso ball joint. Nicely hidden, by the way, that he has it underneath his sashed belt. He does also have splits on the legs. You can see the hinge joint probably underneath there, right there. You can move the legs forward. You can move the legs back. You can swivel at the top, cut at the thigh. Single hinge on the knee. It's just, again, really tight on this figure. And you can also rotate the lower leg. And for articulation, you can hinge the feet up and down. And you can rotate them back and forth with a nice, sufficient ankle pivot. The only thing that's really reluctant, it seems, when it comes to moving this figure around is actually his knees. I find like the knee joint, especially this one, like it almost seems like it's the opposite. I have a tight shoulder on this side and really tight on the leg here. This side bends perfectly fine. This side here is a little tighter, which I'm probably going to have to take a little bit, probably just take a hairdryer. Take a hairdryer, heat that up a little bit, soften up the joint, and that foot soldier should be as good as new. Again, like I had done when I was a kid and I bought 2 of these and then ultimately bought 4 of these, I probably could find myself going down that same similar road when it comes to the Super 7 release of Foot Soldier. I probably could find myself buying more of these. Because after all, if we're going to be having the turtles battling these guys, you want to have more than one Foot Soldier. It made sense as a kid, and it makes even more sense now as an adult. Buying multiples of figures, or the term army building, is something that's probably more prevalent now when you're an adult. Many adult collectors, especially the fact that they have more disposable income than they did as a kid, will definitely be more inclined to buy multiples of a figure they already have in their collection. Sometimes buying doubles, sometimes buying triples, sometimes buying dozens and dozens of the exact same figure, simply so that they can have an army. And that's, of course, where the term army building was coined. As a kid, I didn't think I wanted to spend my money, because I didn't have a lot of it, on a figure that I already had in my collection. Later on, of course, I would do that a little bit more with G.I. Joes, buying multiples of the same Cobra. But my earliest memory was buying a multiple, a double, another copy of a Foot Soldier I already knew was sitting at home waiting for me. The intrigue of buying another figure of the same one I already had was interesting, because I knew I was adding on and building a bigger army that the turtles were fighting against. Ultimately, that single Foot Soldier became 2 Foot Soldiers, and before I knew it, I had 4 of them under my wing. And ultimately, again, I ended up selling all my original vintage turtles and kind of regretted that. Especially the idea that I worked so hard to build up my army building of Foot Soldiers, although admittingly it was only 4 Foot Soldiers. But the idea that I built that up myself and then ultimately just sold it at my garage sale. Now, I do like the fact that I'm living sort of vicariously now through Super 7, kind of rekindling my interest for the original vintage turtle toy line. Yes, I mean, ultimately, I could always go online and see if I can find a vintage Foot Soldier. But again, like, there's a little bit of rose-colored glasses when you're looking at those older lines. They're never really going to be as good as your childhood memory remembers them at being. The beauty of these ones is the fact that you're still getting the look that they had when they were vintage toys, but you're getting the more modern articulation and the vast amount of accessories that Super 7 are throwing at these as well. So I'm okay the idea that I never got a vintage Foot Soldier. Do I regret the fact that I sold my 4? Yes, I do. But I can live vicariously now through the Super 7 Ultimate line to have the Foot Soldier I really always wanted, a more articulated version that I could have displayed with Shredder. And again, I know I'm probably going to be going down that rabbit hole soon enough of picking up more than one of these, simply because, again, then I could have multiple Foot Soldiers on my shelf fighting the vintage Ultimate, I guess we should call it now Ultimate, turtles that Super 7 are also producing. A great looking figure. I'm so glad the fact that we're having a look at it in this review. Let me know what you guys think of the new Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate figures. So far, these have really been home run hits if you ask me. If you are new to the channel and liking the content you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting that subscribe button down below. You can turn on that bell notification, and don't worry, it gets sanitized after every single person that rings it. But that's your way of telling YouTube that you want to see content notified to you every single time this guy puts up a new video. And also, just as a friendly reminder, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m., Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, there's going to be new videos popping up on this channel. We are going to be still having a look at one more Ultimate figure from the folks over at Super 7. So keep your peepers peeled to this channel and come back to this channel Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.